Welcome to IDontWorkHereLady. I've got a wonderful lineup of stories that I hope you enjoy. From a drunken Karen to a former boss and also an extraordinary act of kindness. So without further ado, let's go. This took place before smartphones, like in the 90s. To understand this story, you must know that the company that printed the phone book did misprint the local locksmith's number in the wrong book. Where we live, all the numbers are 421, 423, or 425. My grandparents' number was 423-5625, and the locksmith's was 421-5625. So just one number off, which 5625 actually spelled lock. Ironically, I got to hear both sides of the story because my friend's parents were the locksmiths. Well, the solution, so that no one had to change their number, was that the locksmith bought and installed an answer machine for my grandparents' house, and they recorded a message basically saying, "Hello, you have reached the residence of Mr. and Mrs. Jones. If you are trying to reach A1 Lock, there was a mistake in the phone book. Please call 421 Lock, and we'll be glad to help you." What we would just do was my grandparents would just let everything go to the machine, set it to only 2 rings, and if it was for them, we would just say something like, "Grandma, it's me, pick up," and they would answer. Also note that during the summer, I would stay at my grandparents' house because I'd help my grandpa on the ranch. We would get up around 5:30, and it was just easier for me to stay there than for him to drive and pick me up. Well, the summer after this misprint, it was around 1:45 a.m. I could hear Grandpa getting upset from his room, so I go and see what's up. I see him on the phone repeatedly saying, "Look, lady, you have the wrong number. Call 421. About the 5th time I heard him say it, he slams down the phone. To calm down, he tells me that he woke up to go to the restroom so that he could stretch his bad knees, and he heard the phone ring. It would ring twice, the machine would get it, but the person was hanging up before it barely said hello, and they would call right back. So he answered it just to tell them to call the correct number, because apparently it must have been important, because he heard this happen at least 5 or 6 times in a row. Once on the phone, there was a very drunken lady refusing to believe that the phone company would make a misprint. So she demands to talk to the owner because she knows him personally. This entire time he is telling me this, the phone is doing the hang up redial, so she refused to stop. With this being my friend's family company, I didn't want them to lose business. So the next time it rang, I answered and told her I was the after-hour phone service and got the location. She had locked her keys in her car and then called the correct number, told them what happened, and gave them the information. Here's where the fun begins. The next day after the ranch work, I went over to my friend's house, which was normal. We all kind of hang out there. While there, my brother walks up to me and he tells me what happened when I hung up. Apparently before going, he called her to confirm her location. It was outside of a bar, and to approve the pricing of $35 for the unlock, plus a $20 after-hour service fee. She agreed, and he got in the van and he went. Since this was very easy to do, it only took him like 2 minutes. But he noticed the woman was very drunk, and the key seemed to be a spare on a ring by itself. When she saw it only took him a few minutes to unlock, she refused to pay, saying that he was price gouging her. He simply tossed the key back in the car, locked the door, and closed it, stating that now she has to pay a second unlock fee and a service fee now. Her response? Call the police and scream at him about how she is the best friend of the owner and he was going to get fired. He had no clue who she was and just let her scream without saying that he's the owner's son. When the cops arrived, they took both stories and sided with him. They made her pay him all the money in advance before he would unlock the car. She quickly grabs her keys, hops in the car, and starts driving off, to immediately being pulled over for drunk driving the moment that she hit the street. She even pulled back into the parking lot. It happened so fast. Apparently the bar confiscated her keys because she was too drunk to drive, and that was in fact her spare that he got out. She was arrested for a DUI, and the police had the car impounded. Oh, karma can be cruel. I was at a big store, famous for abusing their employees. I went to see what they sold for Black Friday, but it was Saturday. They hadn't sold much. I wasn't buying any of their junk either. I was just looking at it. Lately, I get mistaken for somebody else. A lot, for some reason. I do wear a face mask, so it makes things a lot worse. But people think they know me. Anyway, I was wandering around looking at junk when I needed to use the toilet. So I wandered in there. I had to clean it with soap and water first, then use it. Meanwhile, different employees had to inspect why anybody would use the toilet. I ignored it. Then psychotic manager comes in, and he starts yelling at me. "Adrian, I don't know what you think you're doing in there, but you need to get out to the sales floor right away." Then he left. That's not my name. It's a nice enough name, Adrian, but it's not mine, and I don't work there. I don't know anyone who does work there. There's really no mystery what people think you're doing in the toilet. There's not really that many options when it comes to being in a public toilet. Maybe the manager likes to play tennis in there. Who knows? There's no reason why a manager should ever yell at their employee. And the psychotic manager should know who works for him and who a customer is. It's not my job to tell him that. There has been 0 times in history that yelling at someone has ever sped anything up, especially when you're on the toilet. And there's very little that someone can do once they are using the toilet once they're there. I didn't care what they thought of it. So, I didn't say a word. I didn't make a sound. I didn't move. I just ignored the psycho manager, and I looked at my phone. Eventually, I left, and I wandered around aggravating the employees, who were sent to see what I was doing. I circled the aisles, with them following me in a very slow speed chase, doubling back so that I would pass right next to them, cutting between racks and pallets of junk, going back to where I had been, then veering back to the other direction, just weaving through the store randomly, with the employees mystified or frowning at me as I would evade them. After a while, I decided to leave, so I cut through the closed checkout lane, walked down a little, back up a different closed lane, down one aisle halfway, turned around and cut through a different closed aisle, and walked across the front with the employees not knowing where I was going to go next, but watching me like a hawk. So I walked out most of the way. Then I turned around to get myself a Diet Pepsi out of the machine. Then I ducked around the side of the machine, drank a part of it just out of sight, just to aggravate them. Then I walked out, with the guy trying to follow me to grab me. But since I haven't walked out with anything but my phone and a drink, he just scowled at me, and also looked puzzled. I was amused by this stupid chase. They thought an employee had goofed off badly, until apparently leaving unexpectedly. This just happened, and for context, I used to work at a partner company. For a phone retailer with a red check mark, I left for reasons I won't go into. I was going into the store to return the key. As I was leaving, a lady grabbed my arm tightly. This was mid-COVID. I immediately recognized her as a regular who always had issues with her phone. Or rather, doesn't have the brain cells to learn how to use it. I yanked my arm away, grumbling a bit, preparing for the abuse that I knew that came with helping her. "Aren't you gonna help me?" she shrieked. Her voice was shrill, like nails on a chalkboard. "Help you? Why would I do that?" I scoffed. "Because you work here." "No, I don't. I used to, but I quit last week." "I don't care. You're here. Help me." I sighed and I thought for a second. Then I got a devilish smirk. "Fine. Since I don't work here, I'll have to charge you my freelance fees." She got a look on her face, as if I told her that the grass was always pink. "Freelance fee?" "Yup. I'm not on the clock. I charge $40 an hour, minimum 2 hours. I knew she wasn't going to go for it. As expected, she started screaming and berating me. I didn't have time for this BS, so I just walked out the door, with a bit of a smile on my face on the way out. Here's a quick backstory. I was in a local red big box store just a couple of days ago. You know, the one with the bullseye? After a now rare face-to-face interview, COVID precautions in place thankfully, I was in a black short-sleeve collared shirt, black slacks, and nice shoes, as well as a mask. So as far as I know, not an employee uniform of the big red box store. I'm a pretty big guy. I have some mental health issues. I don't react well to being manhandled. I also don't like being around people in general, and I try to avoid them, all thanks to the fast food service and the retail jobs in my college years. So here I am, grabbing a few last-minute items so that I could take for the Thanksgiving dinner, as we weren't going to any family or friends gatherings. I was getting groceries. I was looking for a specific gravy that cannot be substituted when I hear the cry of Karen. "Excuse me!" I turned to see someone who I hoped and prayed that I'd never come across. Yes, it was my boss, from the time that I worked at a sub shop at a large truck stop gas station. To say I loathed her doesn't do my feelings justice. She made my 5 months there a living hell, all because I refused to sleep with her. Since she went through all the male employees, just like wildfire, I quit, never giving her the satisfaction of firing me, which I heard ate her up. I see this maskless woman, and I roll my eyes, speaking without a thought. Oh gods, you... She turns that shade of red that I know so well. "That is not how you speak to a paying customer." I'm a paying customer too, not an employee, duh. "Bull. Now help me, or I'll get you fired." Now I'm angry, and my snark is at full power, and it's activated. "Oh, you'd like this so much, wouldn't you? Oversexed dumb F you, you worn out p. What? Run out of actual employees to f? So you're hounding customers?" "Who the hell do you think you are?" "I'm a customer, looking for gravy." I dramatically gesture at the gravy in front of me. "What are you? Some washed up mattress warmer? Scurry back to your pay-by-the-hour motel and leave me alone." I will say at this point, I see the gravy I need, and I grab it, put it in my cart, and I turn to leave. But of course, as taught by Karen University, she isn't having it. She reaches out, grabs my arm, squeezes tight, and tries to turn me to face her. I do turn, but under my own power to get my arm back, and she stumbles forward, but catches herself on a shelf. "You're trying to make me fall, you lousy know-nothing. I'm gonna call the police and press charges." "No, I made you let go, and do it. Call the popo, ho. Call 'em. It's not my fault you're so full of that you can't balance, you infected bubble." She did not take too kindly to that, and she slapped me, hard enough that it made my head ring. Not a good idea on her part, since I acted before my brain kicked in, and I decked her with my left hook. She fell on the shelves, and she was knocked out by the punch. My brain kicked in as she rolled back on her back and hit the floor. I looked down to see her, bloody nose and all, eyes in the back of her head and mouth agape. I was shaking while I looked at my hand. I don't hit anyone unless I'm defending myself, so it was momentarily jarring to me to realize that I just hit someone without realizing I had. I also didn't notice the employee who came up the aisle either. I was so focused on Boss Karen. Well, she radioed the manager and security as she ran up to Boss Karen and got her into a sitting position. As she came to, she was really dazed. She actually asked where she was, kinda sounding drunk. The manager and security showed up a few minutes later, and they asked what happened. I told them my part, as well as pointed to the cameras. The employee verified that she heard the back and forth, and she came when she heard me say that I was getting out of her grip. Well, Boss Karen finally came to, trying to stand up, and she was slapping the employee's hands away, screaming that I attacked her, and that she wanted me arrested. Well, after the footage was reviewed, and the ambulance called, the cops arrived. She got awarded a ban from the store for attacking a fellow customer. I decided not to press charges, because the punch was 21 years in the making, and it felt kinda good to be honest. The cop asked if I was sure, but he let it go after he saw the look on my face as I declined. My anxiety at this point started to hit me pretty hard, especially after the adrenaline crash. I just wanted to get out of there fast. Seriously, anxiety attacks are horrible, and I was honestly worried that this one could cause a panic attack. I was still kinda shocked that the panic attack hadn't happened yet. I guess it was a medication? Well, the manager gave me a discount at checkout. I refused to allow them to give it to me for free. They apologized for me for the whole thing. Well, I left. I drove about halfway home. Then I had to pull over because it finally got to me. When I got home, but later me and my significant other, we joked about it, saying that I can't go anywhere without him. I kind of agree. I mean, usually I need adult supervision since I refuse to be a real adult. I haven't been arrested yet, so I guess I'm doing something right. Quick note here. I was merely a witness of this story. Here's the cast. Me. Then we have the good mom, the sick kid, and the rich man. A while back, I used to work at a local Walmart. I was put in charge of watching the self-checkout. I will admit that back then I was inexperienced with people, and I was lazy. But a few months there taught me a lot about how nasty folks can get. Well, the good mom comes rushing up to the checkout. She has her sick kid in the cart. He does not look well, and I hear him say as they come up, "I don't feel good, Mom. I want to go home." Well, she clearly understands that her kid has become sicker, and she's trying to rush to get him home now. She's trying to soothe him while fumbling with the groceries and the bare essentials, like soup and a box of tissues, saying stuff like, "I know, sweetie, I'm sorry. Mommy's gonna go as fast as she can." Well, along came Rich Man, which I'll refer to as Remy. Well, he has what has to be the most expensive jacket I've ever seen. He's full business. Gold watch, tie, pricey shoes, perfect haircut. He's fit, and he's carrying a lot of coffee. Everything about him makes me glad that we're in the self-checkout, because my track record with rich folk, they end up treating me bad, like 100% of the time. He begins checking out directly across from the mom and the kid, with his back facing them. Suddenly the kid squirms, and he looks around wildly. Mom, I need to go to the restroom." She looks up from the checkout, and she realizes that he's not going to make it through her checkout, so she practically flies around the cart and picks him up. Then he projectile vomits across the self-checkout, all over Remy's jacket. My jaw drops. It can't be real. As I begin to react, I'm watching Remy. He drops his coffee, and he's stunned for a moment when something I wasn't ready for happened. He turns around, quickly removes his jacket, dumps it on the floor, and quickly walks over to the mother kneeling, because they are now on the ground. She's trying to comfort her crying child, and her eyes are practically begging for mercy at this point. "Is he okay?" I walk up with some towels, already on the radio for cleanup, and I hand him one. Well, he uses it to help the mother clean up. "He might have the stomach flu. I just need to pick up some things to take care of him. I am so sorry." "It's okay. Let's just get him cleaned up." Well, she finally sees the man and how he's dressed for the first time. "Oh my God, do you work here?" Remy is wiping the vomit off of her back while I start on the floor. "No, ma'am, I'm just a dad myself. I hate to see kids not feeling well." She was so embarrassed. She really didn't speak again, other than a meager thank you as we finished cleaning up. Remy actually helped her finish checking out personally. I helped him by putting his jacket into a garbage bag, as he checked out as well. I asked him if there was anything else I could do, and he politely declined and left the store. I will never forget how that man reacted that day. For all of his obvious wealth, he was the last priority at that moment. Even as a victim himself, he didn't complain about the mess, or that he might get the kid's flu, or that his jacket is ruined. Nothing. And he certainly did more to help than me, an actual employee. I took this lesson to heart, and it has made a tremendous difference since I became a father myself. Thank you very much for joining me for this edition of I Don't Work Here Lady. I like including really nice stories sometimes. Sometimes the interactions are actually quite wholesome. I think those things are really important to do. Kindness can go a long way. Again, thank you for watching, and until next time, this is Dallas, signing off.